Good morning, everybody. I hope everyone is feeling good, happy and healthy, and I hope you're enjoying the day so far. Welcome to our second listening lesson. This book is slightly more advanced than the one we did last time. This book is non-fiction. It is talking about a man who I think is a bit of a hero. It is also talking about American history. I want us to practice English through social studies, through studying events that happened in the past. The reason being, in America, people assume that you have been exposed to American history all your life. Some of you were born here, and that is true. But many were not. I was not born here, and I learned about very little American history when I was in my country, because I learned about my country's history. And sometimes people in America don't always make that connection. So it is our job to know our history, but also American history too. This man's life is interesting because it bridges the gap between slavery, the Civil War, and then going on through into the 20th century. Okay, let's start. So today's lesson, we're going to read about this gentleman, George Washington Carver. Now, have a think. Do you know anything about George Washington Carver? No? Well, try and think peanut butter. Try and think peanut butter. Something which I don't like, by the way, but my whole family loves, especially my kids. They love it with jelly. But I don't like it at all. But this man, impressive man. Okay, so I'm going to read the story. There will be questions like last time. Most of them multiple choice, and then a couple of short responses at the end of it. Listen to this as many times as you want. It's long. Listen as many times as you want. Listen with the questions in front of you. Take your time. You don't have to do this today. I'm giving you 3-4 days to do it. Take your time. I understand you have a lot of other work to do, but just spend 10 minutes listening, relaxing, and then try and answer the questions. Okay? Okay. So, born a slave. George Washington Carver was born in Missouri in 1864 during the Civil War. The Civil War was a fight between two sides of the United States, the North and the South. When it began, slavery was legal in 15 slave states in the South and illegal in 17 free states in the North. Many people in the North wanted to end slavery in all the states. Many people in the South wanted to keep slavery legal. In order to do this, they tried to break away from the North and start their own country. The North went to war to keep the United States just that, united. After the North won the war, all the slaves were freed. Now, if you're in 8th grade, you'll realize it was a bit more complicated than that. But if you're not, that's a good enough synopsis. Back to George. George was born a slave, but when the Civil War ended, he and his older brother Jim were freed. Moses and Susan Carver, the couple who had owned them, gave the orphan boys a home. Jim helped Moses in the fields, but George was often sick and stayed at home to help Susan. She taught him to read, write, and sew. What George liked best, though, was to garden and explore nature. Now that's very important, where it says she taught him to read. That was something that would not have been allowed during the slave days. You could have both been in deep trouble for a slave having any kind of education. Learning on his own. George taught himself about plants and animals. He wanted to go to school to learn even more, but many schools at that time were segregated. Do you remember what that means? We've done it. We studied it in the Civil Rights Unit. Okay. This meant that white and black students could not go to the same school. Did you get it? Good. Since the nearby school did not allow black students, George left home for another school when he was 12. He lived with the Watkins family and worked for his meals and room. At 13, he moved to Kansas. When George graduated from high school, he earned a scholarship to go to a Kansas college. When George arrived at the college, however, the school turned him away because he was black. George was unhappy, but he did not give up learning. He farmed and taught himself to paint. His friends told him to try a different college. He went to Simpson College in Iowa to study art. This time, the college let him stay. Making a difference. George liked Simpson College, but he wanted to help others more. He decided to study agriculture, the science of farming, at another college in Iowa. He was the school's first black graduate. He later became the school's first black professor. Oh. Professor Carver went to Alabama in 1896 to help the farmers there. These farmers had a big problem. Each year, their crop was smaller, and the farmers were poorer. Carver quickly realized that years of growing cotton had worn out the soil. The farmers barely made enough money to buy food, so they had no money to buy fertilizer that would help the plants. Professor Carver taught the farmers that dead leaves and swamp muck could be added to the soil as free fertilizer. Fertilizer is superfood for plants. When you put fertilizer on a field, the crops grow quicker, stronger, and better. Planting sweet potatoes, peas, or peanuts in the fields after the cotton was picked also helped the soil. These crops put important nutrients back in the soil after they were used up by cotton plants. Carver sent out information about how to grow and cook these crops. By eating them, farmers spent less money buying food from stores. Farmers also needed a way to sell the new crops, so Professor Carver became an inventor. He invented more than 100 ways to use sweet potatoes and 300 ways to use peanuts. Now we're going to stop. Little timeout. We have a little segue away from this. The truth about peanut butter. Dun dun dun. Carter invented up to 300 uses for the peanut. Pavement, grease, medicines, peanut coffee, peanut mayonnaise, peanut flour, peanut milk, shoe polish, bleach, sandpaper, and more. Contrary to popular belief, however, he did not create peanut butter. A Native American tribe is known to have eaten the paste made from peanuts more than 500 years ago. It wasn't as creamy as the tasty goo we eat today, folks. I hate peanut butter, but my kids love it. Ideas are free. By 1921, people were listening to Carver's ideas. He was asked to speak before the U.S. Congress, the country's lawmakers. Some members of Congress laughed and made fun of him. He had been given 10 minutes to talk, though, and he made the most of them. What do you notice? Unlike today, everyone in Congress at the time was probably white, at least majority white, and they probably weren't so welcoming to him, but he was given 10 minutes. Let's see what he talked about. Carver talked about all the things that could be made with the tiny peanut. The men fell silent. When Carver's 10 minutes were up, they gave him more time. In the end, they passed a law to help US peanut farmers. Over the years, Carver became as famous as many rock stars are today. Crowds gathered to hear him speak. He turned down jobs and money because he thought helping people was more important. He believed that ideas were free and should be given freely. And this is Carver meeting President Franklin Delano Roosevelt around 1936. That president is FDR, and he's seen as a fantastic president. And he looks very enthusiastic at meeting Professor Carver. A lasting message. George Washington Carver believed that people should treat each other with respect. He won the respect of a nation at a time when few black people got much respect at all. Carver also believed that people should respect and care for the earth. If they did, nature would provide the things that they needed. Many years later, we are discovering that he was right. And if you have a look at the final photo, right here, he's an old man. And it says, not long before he died, Carver donated $33,000 to the Tuskegee Institute to carry on the agricultural work he began. $33,000, a lot of money. What would that be worth today? About $500,000, about $450,000, $500,000. So that's the kind of man he was. Couple of words in the glossary, and then I'll let you get on. Number one, agriculture, the science of farming and raising livestock. Every farmer is practicing agriculture. Famous, we know that, well known. Fertilizer, a natural or chemical substance that promotes plant growth. Inventor, a person who creates designs or builds something that did not exist before. Think about it. Everything that you use, all this technology, switching light on, all of this stems from inventors creating things. The things they create are called inventions. So inventor creates inventions. Professor, a college or university teacher. Segregated, kept apart based on group differences. And in this case, and the majority of cases in America, that has always been race. Okay, so one more thing. The biggest honor a society can bestow to a man or a woman is normally to be, on a stamp. And that's his stamp. It's quite amazing. Guys, listen to this as many times as you wish. I know it's a long one, but listen to it a couple of times. Answer the questions. Look up about George Washington Carver. Very, very, very interesting man. Have a great day. Bye.